Good afternoon, traders. So I just wanted to do a quick video today because I had some free time. I want to talk about one of my favorite indicators and something I'm using constantly in my trading, and that is volume. I'm a primarily intraday trader, if you didn't know that. And if you've seen any of my blogs or know anything about me, you know I care very much about volume and use it constantly in my decisions. And the reason for that is volume along with price. Those are the only two primary indicators out there. I'm as an intraday trader, I'm using, I want things as quickly as possible, and I'm using very short-term indicators to plan my entries and exits. So volume being one of the only two primary indicators out there, that's like going straight to the source. You have all these moving averages and all kinds of other indicators out there. All of those are secondary. They're called secondary indicators. What they are is simply some sort of derivative of price and volume. That's it. So why not go focus on the source? So that's what I like to do. So I'm going to talk briefly today about buyer and seller exhaustion. It's a pretty simple and easy indicator and concept to grasp. So you can apply it pretty easily in your trading. So what it is any areas of unusually high volume on the intraday chart. I'm going to give you some examples in a few minutes, but the analogy I like to use is think of an intraday chart as if the stock is running. If you see the volume just kind of uniform and similar all throughout, you think of the stock as just jogging. You can jog for a very long time. You're not exhausting yourself. You're not doing anything crazy. But as soon as you see some sort of crazy, volume spikes, I think of that as the stock is starting to sprint. And anytime you're sprinting, you can't do that for a very long time. You're going to get tired, and you're going to have to slow down, right? So let's look at some examples. Very often I get asked if you're in a trade, and how do you know if it's working? How do you know when to get out? Where are you going to plan your entries or exits based on what? So for me, one of the main things I'm using is volume. So say you were short, even just dries here this afternoon. This is not the best example because there's not a whole lot of range here, but even so, if you were short dries here and this thing's starting to pull, that's great. And then bam, right down here, see the volume? Get that really big volume spike. I call that seller exhaustion. The fact that it's reversing right there is it's not random. There's a ton of selling volume coming in here. There's only so many sellers in the market. So when you get an unusually high amount of volume coming in, to the downside, that's probably going to be a place you're going to want to cover up some of your position, at least some of it, if not all of it. It's probably going to be a short-term inflection point. So as dries is pulling here, see it ends in a climax of volume, big volume here, and that's exactly where the reversal starts, the short-term reversal. Same thing over here. We start to pull again, and we get this really big volume climax here compared to the rest of the chart, and that's where it stalls and reverses. So something like that is a really easy thing you can look for on a chart for an entry or an exit that can really help you hone in on your entries. INFN, kind of same deal. Early on we had this big spike on quite a bit of volume. Then when we got the reversal, see when the reversal stops down here, you can see the volume. There's a little. Sometimes it's subtle. It's not. Sometimes it will be thrown right in your face. Other times it'll be a little bit more subtle. But see when we start to pull here, we pull in a little bit more volume than usual, and that's where the reversal stops. Same thing up here when we're pushing, and we kind of get a climax here into the previous resistance on bigger volume right here. And that's where the push stops. So you can kind of use that to your advantage. Again, none of this stuff is, an end-all be-all or a golden indicator by any means. You should never rely on just one piece of information to make a decision in your trading. This stuff works best when you can marry it with either an intraday level on the chart, resistance or support, or on the daily chart. Even if you can start to line this stuff up, that's when it becomes really powerful, when you can use it in conjunction with multiple other indicators. But again, here on ATVI, see all in here, all this run up. If you're looking at this thing and thinking about shorting it, if you look at the volume on this whole walk up here, it's kind of just grinding. There's nothing in particular that should catch your attention about the volume here. So as this thing is walking up, I see that as the stock is just kind of jogging. It's not doing anything crazy. It shouldn't really, if you're shorting it in here, it's sort of an impatient trade. We see then finally we start to go a little bit, parabolic, but more importantly the volume. So we get that really big volume spike relative to the prior in the run. And as soon as I see that, that's something that interests me. That big, volume spike, I call it buyer exhaustion. Now you can start looking for, a short entry or a reversal based off of that big volume spike. And, you see the climax of this run ends, pretty close to the climax in volume. Yeah, it's not a really good example. UBNT was another one. See, it's walking up, and then on the move down lower here, so we get the big selling volume. Right in conjunction, it gets bought up here. Very, very good, indication of seller exhaustion there. And that's where the reversal starts, right, where the big volume comes in. So those are just a few examples. Again, none of this is end all be all, but if you're looking at a stock chart that's moving higher and you're interested in shorting it, make sure you're paying close attention to the volume. You can get some, you can give yourself a little edge if you're paying attention to that, and you do your best to try and wait for some sort of climactic volume of some sort. That will really improve your trading. It helped me a lot. And then if a trade is working in your favor and it's moving lower, you should do your best to try and, if you see any pockets of increased volume on the way down and some seller exhaustion, you should be taking pieces, covering into that. That's something I like to do quite often. So again, none of this stuff is end all be all. You should never only rely on this. You should always, have at least one or two other reasons to enter a trade than that. But that's just one thing you can use to your advantage and implement it into your trading, and get some better entries and exits with a little bit more of an edge. All right, guys, take care. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.